Welcome back to our season preview here on the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. Theater screens that drop from the ceiling, lights that dim, everything controlled by a super remote, tablet, or phone. The masters in home theater designs and installations are Safety Systems. Call VFL JJ Surlis. He can take care of you. He can run through all the stuff that they do, and they do a lot of different stuff, and it all looks fantastic. And this also goes not just for your home, but if you're looking for a great communications room for your business, they do the same thing there. SafetySystems.com. Okay, let's take a look at Tennessee's schedule for 2021. I'll leave it up there for a second. 12 games there instead of 10 this year, thankfully. 4 non-conference foes, obviously. When you look at that schedule, what is the most important game in your view? You can look at that and say, well, it's the swing game if you think they're going to be between 5 and 6 wins. Or you say, I think they're on to 7 or 8 wins. That's the momentum building game. So I'll let you come up with your own criteria. Bob Hodge, I'll start with you. What's the most important game on that stretch for Tennessee?
Well, I want to say Pittsburgh because I think that Pittsburgh is a swing game. I think that could be the difference between what your final record is. Do you hit the boat? But I'm going to go with Ole Miss just simply because of the optics. I think if Ole Miss comes in here and Lane Kiffin can beat you, I think that's a bad optic game for Tennessee. And you got a lot of fans that like Lane Kiffin. I don't really understand why. So I'm Pittsburgh and Ole Miss. I'll go Ole Miss.
Okay. Bob goes Ole Miss. Let's come on back to the guys. I think they've seen the schedule long enough. Jimmy Hodge, where are you going with?
I'm going to go Pitt. Because I think if you win that game, you start 3-0. And I'm going to go refer to a Mike Tyson quote. Everybody got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Well, a lot of people are buying in. But if you buy in and Pittsburgh hits you in the mouth and you lose that game, then maybe you lose some of that buy-in. But I think if you start 3-0, you've got a lot of confidence. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to beat Alabama and Florida. But I think you feel better about what you're doing. You're going in the right direction. And I think it would just be a big confidence boost to the team if they could beat Pitt and start 3-0.
Josh Ward.
Those are both really good answers. I'm probably going to have the lamest answer of this segment because of what you mentioned there, like that kind of the swing game. Do you want to make sure you at least get to a bowl game? Because of where it is in the schedule, what you're at least trying to do year one to get to 6-6 or better for sure. South Carolina, year one coach, Shane Beamer, like you play them close often. It doesn't mean that's going to be the case this year. They're coming to Knoxville. It's also in the middle of a stretch that's not easy at all. So if you lose that game, could that mean that you have a really bad stretch? So I'm going to say South Carolina.
I really like that answer because I think that's the school that kind of jumped you. When you started falling down the list, when they came into the league, everyone just laughed at South Carolina, and then now they're ahead of you basically. Now you're tight with them every year, as you say, a lot of overtime games in there. But first year coach, you're kind of back at even keel with them. You need to get back in front of them and stay in front of them. That's a good answer. I'm still going to go Pitt though. I think it is most important. I think it's also the most fascinating because that was a team that was a little better than they probably would have beaten Tennessee last year. People look at it and go, it's Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was better than you last year. Also, Pat Narduzzi has seen Josh Heupel's offense. They went against each other, Pitt and UCF. They split. I think it would be better for Tennessee if Pat Narduzzi had never seen Josh Heupel's offense. If you've got a big important game, you'd love to have that offense going against somebody who hadn't played it. So he's seen it twice. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to go Pitt for that reason. But all three of those answers are good.
And also on that list could be Kentucky.
Yeah.
I mean, your gap with Kentucky is not. It's gone. And that's another one that kind of falls into that South Carolina
It used to be you could be pretty bad and still beat Kentucky.
Yes.
Yeah, after last
exactly.
year when they thumped you here. Yeah. That was. This one's a little deeper than it sounds. The question is, will Tennessee go bowling this winter? Will they make a bowl game? But there's kind of two parts to that. Part of that is, do you think they'll win 6 games? The other part is, do you think they will self-impose a bowl ban? So, will Tennessee go to a bowl this year? Josh Ward.
I will say yes, which gives part of my record prediction away. But
all right. Don't get specific.
The bigger
he
part.
He says 9 wins.
Going into the Vandy game, I will say yes to a bowl game, being eligible, and not self-imposing the ban.
Interesting. Okay, Jimmy
I'm
Hodge.
in that camp too, and I think if Tennessee self-imposes, it'll be year 2028, right?
Yeah.
That's how fast these things work. I don't think, at this point, I don't think Tennessee's going to self-impose. I think they're going to look to try to ride this thing out. This thing is extended further than I thought with the NCAA investigation. So I think Tennessee goes 6-6 and makes a bowl game.
All right, there you go. Bob Hodge.
My answer is I think if Tennessee doesn't self-impose, if this thing is still playing out, it's terrible for the university. Now, the NCAA appears to be imploding. So maybe you do try to ride it out and the NCAA is toothless and so none of this stuff matters. But I'm going to say no, and it's going to go with the self-imposition because at some point you've got to put this thing to bed. And as long as it hangs out, I think it hurts Heupel. I think it hurts your program. So I'll go with no with the self-imposed.
Okay, one other thing we didn't throw out there in terms of reaching bowl games was, will Tennessee be impacted by COVID? Will they lose games? Or the SEC hasn't announced their forfeit plan yet, so will they be forced to forfeit if they don't meet COVID protocols at some point? But all right, that's interesting. Good.
They sure hinted at it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sankey
yes,
did.
they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good questions there. What we come at, good answers, I should say. Oh, the questions were good. Your answers were so-so.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. How come it never works that way? I always have to say good answers. I want good questions. Which transfer or freshman will have the biggest impact on the team? Non-quarterback. We'll talk about the impact of some of these newcomers to Tennessee. That's next. Come on.